Hello and welcome to another week of GM Tips. This is GM Rick coming at you from Oklahoma, up there on some business. So I'm doing a episode from my hotel. Uh, Makes a nice black screen wall, a white screen wall behind me. Geez, don't I wish I had those programs I could put up a screen with some of the things with it on the elemental planes. And it brings me to my topic, the elemental planes. Tonight I really want to talk a little bit about the elemental planes and running the elemental planes as part of your campaign. Now, again, doesn't matter the system, the genre, could be open. Yes, I'm giving you props, Open Legend. Whether it's an Open Legend, which, by the way, if you have not backed that Kickstarter, get involved. It's unique and different. Again, in the beginning, I wasn't totally on board with it. But you know what? The more that I've seen him do with that and the whole team there, the more impressed I am. So please back them. I know Matt Mercer's backing them. I know Ed Greenwood's backing them, as are several others. Please help them in their launch. He's already hit some of his goals. We're going to some epic goals where he's going to have different worlds and genres. So please help with that effort. I think it'll be a great system, especially for those that want more of a heavy story aspect and less mechanics. It is going to be one of those systems that you'll really enjoy, and I think we'll really do a lot of great things with. So please back them. I'm a $40 backer. I am definitely behind it. I'm looking forward to getting my hardcover version and really love it. So whether it's that one, whether it's Cypher System with the Ninth World or Monty Cook's other various things, Monty and Shanna's stuff, or whether it's on Mutants and Masterminds with Savage Worlds, or it's Savage Worlds in general, or whether it's D&D, or whether it's D20 Modern or D20 Future, or whether it's some other system that I haven't mentioned. And there's some really good new ones that are coming out, like Tortured Earth and some other ones. It doesn't matter the genre. You can bring the elemental planes into any genre. In fact, even a space genre. So, like your Star Wars or your Firefly or your Harry Dresden, it's perfect for the Dresden Files. So, those of you that are Dresden File people, keep that in mind. Really great stuff when it comes to the elemental planes because they have the Fae and they're heavily involved as well. No matter what it is, it can be Call of Cthulhu, it can be any of these game genres. The elemental planes themselves bring in a whole new dynamic in my mind that is not present in the prime material plane. And no matter what part of the prime material, whether it's prime material 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1000, this really brings us an element and a taste to the campaign that really challenges the players. The elements are what make up the prime material plane, and without the feed to those different planes, there would be no prime material plane in most people's minds. Fire, water, air, earth, those are all the elements, and aether, which you can put as the fifth. Now, which is the astral, or excuse me, or ethereal planes. Those all have an impact when it comes to it, as well as the positive and negative energy planes. I love the elemental planes because elementals are such an unpredictable element. And I've gotten the recent one, by the way, by Paizo, and I gotta say, great job for Pathfinder. And Amanda, you did a tremendous job. Amanda Heyman Kuntz headed this one up. She did a wondrous job. And there was a lot of authors in there: John Compton, Paris Crenshaw, Eleanor Farron, Thurston Hillman, and Jessica Price. And also, the cover artist was Setyawan Lee, or Lai. Setyawan Lai, I think. Please forgive me if I mutilate the name. Other artists in there are Helgi Balzer, Tomas Chitowski, Jorge Ferris, Diane Martinez, Nikolai Ostertag, Hugh Pinder, and Roberto Peturu. So great job, guys. It really is a good rendition and a good step into the elemental plane. If you don't have guides like this in your Dungeons and Dragons and other campaigns, don't be afraid to grab books from other genres and adapt them. I know it takes a little bit of work, but the ideas there and some of the uniqueness of it brings some real flair and will help you in developing those planes. And for me, I like the elemental planes because they introduce such unique creatures and ways of thinking that are so opposite some of the things on prime material plane. And there are some unique things that go on between the barriers of these. There's also demi-planes, like the demi-plane of mud, ice, magma, and other planes. So you can put demi-planes in, you can work with a lot of different things. It could be simply that a rift was torn by some event in your world. And that's one thing you can do with it. And I like that idea. And it's a unique idea in going into that. Or there is a gate or a plane shift that takes you over to them using a device. There may be a magic spell that takes you there, or some type of ritual that opens a gate. Or you might have a permanent gate, kind of like a stargate, somewhere on your world that takes you to different places, and one of the dials is that plane. So there are a lot of things you can do to really open this up so your players that are playing there will really do an interesting transition over there, or bring up an interesting transition to getting to that plane. And again, there's a lot of dangers inherent to those planes. First of all, how do you breathe? That is always the greatest challenge. So unless you've got some sort of a environmental suit, or you have some sort of force field, or you have some sort of oxygenation machine, or you have some sort of capsule, or you have a magic spell that works with you and brings you the breathing capability for that environment and element, it is a challenge to even survive on those planes. But the rewards of what you can find there and some of the things that can be worked with are amazing. So, for instance, sky metal or adamantine on the plane of fire, the elemental plane of fire. Very easy place for that to be forged into weapons and other items and implements, from armor to power armor to spaceships to engines to other things. Amazing thoughts there. The elemental plane of air, a great place to use with an airship. So if you're putting an airship up in the air and you want to have a perpetual motion, you use either an air elemental or a rift into that plane that allows you to have the air currents that will move your ship along at a constant and unchanged velocity. So it's something that you can really utilize with a magic item or some other type of technological item that brings that plane into existence, or that creature, and traps it to where you can use it. Earth, hard plane to move through. Again, it is totally like you're going into the earth itself. So there are caves and caverns in it, but the air is stale often, and so it's even hard to breathe there. And without things like transmute rock to mud, or pass wall, or some of these other type of spells, or unless you have a tunneling device, so like an H.G. Wells drill that goes through for Atlantis, or some of the other ones that he talked about with a big bore on it, it's going to be tough to do. So, and then it brings us to water. Water is an interesting plane itself, and unless you're a water breather, you're going to have a tough time surviving in an underwater environment for very long. So keep that in mind. All these great places to go and some very unique things to come across. Of course, you got your elementals that are in most books, so your monster guides or your bestiaries or bestiaries or other type of guides that you may have for a certain type of genre. You can use these. Now, what I didn't mention was Deadlands. Deadlands is, as you remember looking into the thing, there are some evil things that are driving things. So these are referred to often as Wendigo, or greater gods or spirits. You could have these being a force behind driving what's going on in your realm. And so, in the Old West, you could have easily, fire elementals and other things coming in and possessing people. And pushing them to do things that they normally wouldn't. So you can get away from your demonic or daemonic influence and go to an elemental influence. As you can see, I'm enthusiastic about it. I really love the concepts of what you can do there. And even into the planes of aether and etherealness. You've got your, in D&D, your Githyanki and Githzerai, which are prime dominant species out in these planes. You have ghosts, you have other things that come into existence on those planes. You got people who are astrally projecting. So it's a cool place, and it's unique for your players to go into, and it's something very different than most people work with a lot of times. Now, if you're basing your campaign around the elements, keep in mind of getting a guide like this that kind of gives you a lay of the land. Whether it's, and again, Dungeons and Dragons have done some great ones in the old 3.5 and even maybe a little bit in 4. They did some great dives into the elemental planes. So really try to convert some of that stuff and use it, especially if you're a D&D 5er. It's real easy to do, and you can move that stuff over fairly straightforward. So what are some things you can find out there? Let me give you some different things that come up. Shaitan, Efreets, Jinn, Janny, Geniekin, Salamander, elementals themselves, Nerids, Merfolk, Shahagan, Kuatoa, fish folks. So your what do they call them? Vish. Oh, geez, Vishyana. Vishyana is the Russian version of the fish folk. No. Voidly. I remember. I've got them in my mind. I see them. I can see them. Voidyanka or Voidya. I think it's Voidya. One of you guys will get it. You're probably shouting it out at my video right now. Voidya, Voidoi, Voidoi. Yeah. As you can tell, I don't use them a lot. Bunyips. There's a lot of creatures that are out there. Azer. Oh, I love the little glowing dwarves. They're always fun. Or Azir. So there are a lot of creatures. Even dragons are over there in those realms. And in some cases, you've got your different types of demons and daemons that will dwell in those pockets as well for short periods of time. Magmen. The little magmen. That's the bane of everybody's existence, the magmen that came along. Flumph. You put a flumph out there, probably in the airplane, but flumph. So there's a lot of things that you can utilize out in those planes that are dangerous encounters for your people to come across. Now, there are elemental lords, and like all ruled realms, there are lords and lordesses, and they're at the level almost of a god or goddess. They're not quite there, but they're there. And a great adventure path that I looked into and played some was Legacy of Fire. And the Legacy of Fire has a little bit of a gazetteer on those realms. It does some dives in there just because of the fact of where you are. In Katapesh, there are a lot of elemental beings. So it deals a little bit with that and some of the different aspects of it. So resources on these things help, and the elemental lords can become really, there's usually 2 sets for each plane. There's a good one and a bad one, but you could do 3, a good, bad, and a neutral lord. So you have a triumvirate of lords. You have your tyrants, you have your benevolence, and then you have those that just are plain neutral and don't care and are self-serving. And so it makes it interesting then for your players to go out, especially when they're dealing with them and the nobility of the courts that deal under that, and the different types of dukes and duchesses and various lords and minor lords and lordesses that are on those planes. So keep that in mind. Now, your players can do things like Ifrit, or they can do Sylphs, or they can do Nerids, or they can do some unique thing. And that's something you may adapt in, is some elemental blood into your various genres. And that will make it kind of unique. It would make it a little easier for them to make some transition. It could be latent blood that they don't even know about. And so when they make that transition, it activates that blood and is able to help them to survive in that plane a lot better. So just keep that in mind as you go into these things. There's enough material out there on the net that if you do searches on the elemental planes under different genres and systems, you can easily take that and turn that to your own world and home-baked campaigns on these different areas. And for me, I like it because of just the sheer power of these creatures. Now, you can start off with something as minor as a small elemental to something like an elder, which is pretty nasty. So you're going from something that has low hit points or health, maybe like a 13, all the way up into literally 300 to 400 hit points or health points. So they can be pretty powerful. And you can scale it for the players and what level they're at. And so keep that in mind that you can really do those things. Now, I love some of the things that they discuss out there, like some of the unique ones, like the Marajao, which are the chitin-plated ones here. They do a great job in some of the books bringing in some new things that are unique to those planes. Elemental infused creatures, I love those. Those are great for things that end up in the material plane that are not really necessarily that powerful, but have a tie-in. I love that they give an elemental lordess, or lord in this case. I think there should be more of those. And again, as you develop your campaign, that's one consideration, is who are the rulers of yours? Who are the rulers that are causing good to happen or bad? Are they aware of what's going on with the campaign twists and plots that you have or not? You can have different transportation. So, for instance, in the city of Brass area or some of the other areas that are on the elemental plane of fire, they have ships that are made of the hardest metals that do not, or metals that reflect the heat and try to keep it off and don't melt in the magma itself, the magma seas. You could have maybe an underwater ship like the Nautilus that you can use on the elemental plane of water. Like I said, drill trains or drills that you can use with diamond tip drills that are going through the elemental plane of Earth, or in air sky ships, tremendously large sky ships that float through the air and the different cloud cities that are in the elemental plane of air. There is so much you can do to enrich this, and it takes you into even some of the steampunk aspects if you want, or even into star type of systems or different star transporting devices that may transport you to different parts of these elements and allow you to move around. So keep these things in mind. What is that plane like? What kind of cities? What kind of civilization? What kind of transportation? What is precious for them there that is unique, that is something different that you find on the material than what you find on the material plane? How do they survive? How are their weapons hardened? Do they have advanced weapons? Do they not? Do they have a deital system, or are they agnostic system of existence? There's so much you can do with this, and I think it just, if you're getting burned out on a certain type and genre, pulling something like this in can just revitalize that whole situation. It can take the most burned out of players and turn them around and really get them reinfused with a vigor that will help them to want to do exploring. I mean, think about it. Think about how big the prime material plane is. Now you're going to the plane of an element. How big do you think it is? It can be as small or as large as you choose it to be. It can have so many facets and demi-planes and other places you can go that are so unexplored or very hard to explore. So many explorers haven't gone there yet. And maybe you're trying to establish trade there, or maybe you're trying to find things you can bring back that'll bring you wealth or certain power. Again, a great place to go and really invigorate some new ideas. And then the whole idea that you're in a dangerous place trying to survive, that maybe you're not from there. Now, if you want as a GM, you can truly just have your characters be from that plane, maybe going to the material plane. So you can switch it all up. They can be starting out as some sort of an elemental that's going into the prime material plane or crossing into other elemental planes to try to treat with other elementals. So there is a lot you can do with the concepts and the ideas with this. Keep that in mind. Now, how does it tie into a Call of Cthulhu horror campaign? Well, think about it. What better thing than having something like uh, one of the different elder gods open a rift into the elemental plane to have the chaos of it pouring into the prime material plane and causing horror and destruction. Think about that. Why wouldn't they? Why would they leave it alone? Why wouldn't they want to cause chaos on both sides of both the elemental plane and the prime material plane? So again, lots of things you can do with that, and a lot of chaos that you can bring. Um, so maybe Hastur, the god in yellow, who entices people and tricks them to their doom with the coveting of different wealth and other things. Maybe he ends it all by opening that rift to an elemental plane, and then in order to save itself, that group of heroes in that area or villains has to stave off what Hastur has done to damage their plane. So again, a lot of things you can do here with the concept. So keep that in mind and really look to the different resources. There's so many out there. Wiki brings a lot of things with that. The SRDs and PRDs of a lot of people's websites, and maybe even like things like Open Legend and Tortured Earth. They give you that avenue to open that door if you choose to, and they simplified the rules to allow you to do that in a way that makes total sense. So keep all these things in mind when you're looking at the different systems. Superhero one. Why would superheroes have that? Well, maybe your super villain or your superhero is trying to pull from somewhere else to up their power to defeat their mortal enemy, and in doing so, they tear a rift in the reality that causes these things to cross over. Kind of like what happened with the stones on the Avengers movies, where they brought those creatures over, the Dark Elf style creatures, to the very first Avengers movie. Again, or Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have those different creatures in the Kree or the Skrull, who basically draw from that plane to power themselves. There's a lot you can do with this in the hero side of things. Or maybe you have a superhero that is tied into that element and wants to explore more of their abilities by crossing back over into that elemental plane. Again, more concepts and ideas. So the thing I love about the elemental planes is they're not specific to any system. They truly are adaptable to any and all systems out there. They can be, so say you have one of the Holocaust ones, I forget the name of the one, that has the 4 books that are the different types of end of world scenarios. But there was a system that you guys will probably name it off again that I saw that have a blue book, a green book, a red book, and a yellow book, and all of them are different ways the world dies. And one of them is basically a end of the world scenario where the divines come back. Well, maybe instead of the divines, it's the elementals. They come into that world and begin invading to destroy it and bring Ragnarok around for the end of the world. So keep that in mind. You could use that in a postmodern scenario where something tears open and it starts destroying a good section of the earth. And the only way for the players to stop it is to find or invent the type of device that will close that rift again and allow the world to heal itself. Lots of things you can do. And again, I go there with the elementals, and I'll name this episode the elemental planes, because really it's usable anywhere and it reinvigorates the ideas. And I could go on if you guys want. And in fact, if you guys want more ideas, email me at ricmoh43@yahoo.com, and I'd be glad to do that. Or you can tweet me on Rick, spell capital R, little I, little C, capital M, capital T, little H-E, capital G, capital M on Twitter. And I would be glad to bad ideas with you. This is something that I think has to be explored more. I think the systems each have opened it a little bit and creaked it open just a bit. Pathfinder's done a great job of creaking it more, as has D&D, but there's others who have hinted at it. And I think to leave that alone is to leave a whole dynamic that could really enhance your campaign in ways that you haven't even thought of yet. So keep that in mind. Bat it off your players. Say, hey, how would you like to introduce some unique elements from the elemental planes? And see what they say. And I bet you'll get a lot of buy-in from the people about that. Because it's not many people literally explore it. There are a few GMs who have really done a great job of it, but most leave it alone. And there is so much to do. And in fact, myself included, I can't wait to introduce more aspects of this because there's so much that can be done with it that really can transform a campaign and really enhance it in ways that people haven't even looked at yet. That's it. I hope everybody has a great time with this one and really batting around. My goal here was to get your juices going and to really get you thinking elementals. Again, tremendous job, Paizo staff. This is one that, honestly, I am so proud to own. I think it's just tremendous material, and I'm looking forward to you guys doing more and more with other planes. It's going to be a lot of fun as that gets introduced more and more. Thanks, folks. Have a great week, and enjoy your gaming weekend coming up.